So that being said, I want to get into it. Today we're talking about a few different topics, and the first and foremost one is Bryan Callen. There was an article in the LA Times that just came out. I believe it was Friday. So for you, those of you who don't know, Bryan Callen was Mad TV when Mad TV was Mad TV, when Bobby Lee was on it, Jim Carrey, Wayne's Brothers, all those people. He's now of Fighter and the Kid fame, a very successful podcast out of Los Angeles. He was on the Goldbergs, I believe, as a gym teacher, and he had his spinoff, his own spinoff off of the Goldbergs. That got canceled, not because of the allegations. He's not going to be on the Goldbergs much this season, but that's for character reasons, apparently, not, again, because of the allegations. And he's also a very, acclaimed, successful stand-up comedian. So to get right into it, there were 4 accusations against Bryan Callen, 4 different women. The first one happened 20 years ago. In 2000, him and a woman, go out to dinner. She has a half a glass of wine. They're supposed to go to a movie. They stop back at his place on the way to the movie. They stop back at his place. She feels disoriented. I'm reading off the iPad, so excuse me. Long story short, they're at his house. She claims he raped her on the bed. She has claimed she told her husband, her current husband, and she told a best friend. They weren't at the same time. They weren't in the same place. They're different times. So it's very, it's interesting. I don't know where the line is, to be honest. It's tricky. It's tough. Do you believe the woman? Do you believe him? Who's right? Who's wrong? I mean, this is what the whole Me Too movement kind of embodies. Not as a whole by any means. The Me Too movement embodies women coming forward for misconduct from men, but it's tough. In the United States, there's, in America especially, there's due process, right? So I equate this to 3rd degree, 2nd degree, 1st degree murder. So 3rd degree is the easiest, second is the second hardest, first being the hardest. We're kind of seeing this now play out with George Floyd. People, when 3rd degree murder was told that that's what they were going to prosecute the cop with, everybody's like, no, it needs to be 1st degree. And people are like, whoa, yes, we agree. It definitely it's fucked up, but it's harder to prove 1st degree murder because you got to have intent, you got to have purpose, you got to have like premeditated murder, right? I mean, you can't say that the cop premeditated this. It's hard to prove, but it's easy to look at and watch and say it definitely premeditated. You can't just assume it, though. You got to have some sort of proof, unfortunately. So getting back to the Callen situation, it's the same premise, right? Now, this was 20 years ago, so there's that. Does it make it right? No. Does it make it wrong? I mean, absolutely not. But it's tough to. It's tough. Do I support the women? Of course. No women should be raped. No woman should be taken advantage of. I mean, that's ridiculous. Of course not. But it's tough. I think that's been the biggest pushback from the Me Too stuff is this cancel culture? Are women just coming forward because maybe he kissed them, but didn't want to be kissed? Now, granted, this first woman, there's 4 women total. The first one is accusing rape. That's a very, very real, substantial accusation. So this may not apply to her directly, but it is something to consider. The second woman was at an American Apparel in Pittsburgh. This was in 2009. Apparently, Callen was in a Speedo of sorts. She came back with some clothes. He throws her against the wall. Shit happens. She tells a coworker, much like the first woman told her husband and her friend. Nothing happens. You know, this is her story. You know, now, did she lead him on? Was she flirting? Was she anyway guilty, or did she anyway lead him on? Who knows? Nobody knows. The only people who would know are him and her. It's he said, she said. Does it make it right? No. Does it make it wrong? No. I don't know. I'm just telling you the facts. You guys can decide. But this is what's being reported. Third victim, or I should say a third accusation, comes from a woman in New York. She was a coffee barista. Apparently had a 4-year affair while Callen was married. She claims that she had no clue he was married and that he offered help, basically to help her career. She also claims now that she's in therapy because she feels that she was taken advantage of due to a 20-year age gap. Now, I mean, 20 years is so I'm 39. If I was dating a 19-year-old, yeah. I mean, that's a lot. I don't think we'd have much to talk about. Now, if we were attracted to each other, I'm sure the fucking would be amazing, as I'm sure Bryan and whatever this girl did, I'm sure. But that's not what's happening. My point is that 20-year difference is a lot. When he was 20, she wasn't even born. Put it that way, it's kind of weird. So it is what it is. But the allegations are he claimed to help her career. She felt violated and taken advantage of because of the age gap. He was married, so if he did remotely even kiss her or do anything, he is definitely in the wrong. So there's that. At the worst case, he is cheating on his wife, and that's not right. So I don't know, but that was number 3. The fourth woman was a woman in 2017 by the name of Tiffany King. She was a comedian, and she claims that oral sex was demanded or wanted in exchange for stage time at a comedy club and money. So basically money and blowjobs in exchange for stage time. So I mean, this is very much in the vein of Joey Diaz, who basically said that he had women blow him for stage time at the Comedy Store. Again, I mean, I'm assuming it's true because he said it was true. And he said it on Rogan's podcast like 10 years ago. So I don't know. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. But this is just, it seems to be the culture of sorts a decade or 2 decades ago. Doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it, I mean, I guess you could say it makes it wrong. But I'm not trying to justify this by any means. I'm trying to give perspective to the overall story and other stuff that has happened. A lot of people are saying Bryan Callen adamantly denies all the allegations. They are false. This is cancel culture at its finest. They're trying to ruin him. He never thought in a million years he was going to be a part of this, and probably rightfully so. I mean, he clearly feels that it was very much consensual, and these 4 women were not consensual, or they don't think it was consensual. But unfortunately, and I use that word very loosely, unfortunately, evidence is needed. Now, I don't want to discredit the women, but I can't just go around and say, Kip tried to stab me yesterday and I don't know where he is. Kip tried to stab me yesterday and I don't know where he is. Now, people are going to hear that and be like, oh my God, Kip tried, people could be like, oh my God, Kip tried to stab him. What the fuck? But the reality is that I can say whatever I want. And, I mean, I'm not saying that these women are lying, but if there was like a phone record or a video record or voice message or something, it helps, I mean, evidence always helps, right? I mean, you can say all you want. I mean, people accuse people of stuff all the time, but in court, legally, you need evidence. And that's this huge gray area that is the Me Too movement. Did Louis C.K. jerk off in front of people? Well, yeah, he sure did. But is he going to jail for anything? Well, he's not, because there's no evidence. The same with, I guess you could say, Matt Lauer. Now, Cosby and Weinstein, I they're different. I mean, obviously Cosby was convicted, but it's such a gray area. And that's what makes this very, it's tough. It's so tough. Because obviously if someone says something, there's a reason. You're not just going to say, oh, I was raped, and just for attention. The amount of people who would lie about that it's so minimal and minuscule that I'd like to believe maybe that's just ridiculous. But, people want attention, and if that's what they got to do for it, sometimes they do it. Sometimes they do that. But are these 4 women lying? I can't say they are. They genuinely believe they were wronged, and that's a tough one to react to, because he denies equally being that he's not wrong, that he didn't do nothing. So it'll be interesting to see what plays out. I don't know how it will play out, but I do like The Fighter and the Kid. I think The Fighter and the Kid was a fun podcast, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. He's obviously taken a leave of absence from the podcast, so we will see what happens with this. But that's kind of where it's at. So we'll see. He's just kind of going to lay low, much like Chris D'Elia did. Chris D'Elia was accused of talking and texting or sexting with underage women as young as 16, and then I guess apparently having sex with them or trying to have sex with them when they turned 18. You could argue that's grooming, but again, text messages come out that weren't shared initially, and the story is different. So there's always 2 sides to a story. 9 times out of 10, initially, it's one-sided. No, I'm not saying Callen is innocent, because I do not know. I was not there, but it's always good to know both sides. It's always good to know what both sides, did, or what it's tough. Without trying to be politically correct and too PC, it's just tough. The Me Too movement is equally as good as it can be bad. And I only say bad because a lot of times it's, he said, she said, and I get people feel wronged, but it's just, it's tough. It's such a gray area. It's such a gray area.